Hello, I'm Henry Keane. We are UATV. Welcome to the Wrap-Up Weekly. Today in the episode, Ukrainian strikes work better than entire Western sanctions, says Ukrainian intelligence chief Budanov. Trump wants to meet Putin in Budapest. Moscow has bought itself some time again. North Koreans are joining Russian war effort. Payment for such an effort is not only cash but land just as well. Ukrainian strikes on the Russian military-industrial complex and oil and gas facilities have damaged the Russian economy and ability to wage war much greater than all Western sanctions yet, unfortunately, said by the chief of Ukrainian military intelligence, Budanov, during the meeting with military attachés of the partner states in Kyiv.
The capabilities of the Russian military machine have been significantly reduced due to successful, far-reaching strikes by the Ukrainian defense forces on military bases, logistics centers on Russian territory, defense industrial complex enterprises, especially oil refining facilities. At the same time, the Kremlin is also increasing and scaling up missile and drone strikes on Ukrainian cities, destroying civilian infrastructure, especially critical energy facilities. The attitude of the Russian authorities to the norms of international humanitarian law is best illustrated by the living stories of Ukrainian prisoners of war and civilians who were freed from captivity thanks to our incredible efforts. Fortunately, Ukraine is not alone in its struggle. Free peoples stand shoulder to shoulder with us in its just struggle. I express my sincere gratitude to the countries for their invaluable assistance.
As a live example of Mr. Budanov's words, we report that explosions rocked Russian-occupied Crimea overnight on October 17th, damaged power substations and sparked a major fire at an oil depot. According to local reports, the region's Moscow's installed governor, Sergei Aksyonov, confirmed that drone attacks struck several electrical facilities, causing widespread power outages across the peninsula. Power outages were also reported in Saki and Novofedorovka. Meanwhile, local Telegram channels report a large fire at an oil storage facility in the village of Khvardiyske, Simferopol district. The first explosions were heard around 2:40 a.m., shortly before flames engulfed the site. The depot reportedly belongs to Kedr LLC, which operates the largest gas station network in occupied Crimea. Despite the fire and multiple eyewitness reports, Russian occupation authorities have not officially commented on the strike on the oil facility in any way. While on a mission to shoot down Ukrainian drones in Crimea, Russian fighter jet Su-30SM is reported to be downed by Russian air defenses in a friendly fire. The pilot have managed to catapult himself out before jet crashed into the sea. Well, one down, one to go. A series of powerful explosions rocked the Russian-occupied city of Donetsk overnight on October 17th, reportedly caused by the detonation of a large stockpile of ammunition. Videos shared by eyewitnesses captured multiple blasts and bright flashes lighting up the night sky in the city. Moments before the explosions, several drones were spotted flying over the city. Local Telegram channels began reporting the sound of drones passing overhead shortly after 2 a.m., followed by a wave of detonations. Residents were urged to stay away from windows. Shock waves rattled nearby neighborhoods. Footage from the scene suggests that the strikes targeted an ammunition depot belonging to the Russian occupation forces. The destruction of these stockpiles is strategically significant for Ukraine. The depletion of Russia's missile and artillery reserves directly limits the frequency and intensity of enemy shelling against Ukrainian positions and civilian areas. Samara Oblast in Russia became the target for Ukrainian drones as well. A power plant substation was hit overnight, causing problems for entire power grid. This goes as a grim reminder that war on energy now goes both ways, and more Russian regions will feel the results of the Kremlin's criminal aggression against Ukraine. This is the only way to make Russian society feel the need to end the war, when they start feeling the consequences for themselves, and maybe, just maybe, one day Russians will even decide they need Putin no more and give him away for the International Criminal Court prosecution. Just saying. US President Donald Trump confirmed Thursday that he would meet with Russian dictator Putin in Budapest, Hungary, to discuss the war in Ukraine after the two men had a lengthy meeting and the Kremlin-initiated call that Trump already described as very productive.
President Putin and I will then meet in an agreed-upon location, Budapest, Hungary, to see if we can bring this inglorious war between Russia and Ukraine to an end. President Zelensky and I will be meeting tomorrow in the Oval Office, where we will discuss my conversation with President Putin and much more. Donald Trump, President of the United States, on Truth Social.
The call between the two, American president and Russian dictator, lasted nearly 2.5 hours, and as mentioned before, was held at the request of Russia. It appeared to quickly shift Trump's tone towards Russia, which has backed his efforts to end the war. Trump later told reporters during an Oval Office event that he would meet with Putin within 2 weeks or so. He also noted in his social media post that Secretary of State Marco Rubio will lead a delegation of high-level advisors to meet with Russian officials next week, with a location to be determined, and then provided additional details to reporters later in the afternoon. Putin immediately supported Trump's idea of a planned summit in Budapest to discuss ending war in Ukraine, and the Kremlin aide Yuri Ushakov also said, describing the call between Trump and Putin as, I quote, highly informative and extremely frank. Some experts dare to say that those ad nauseum really tomahawks did their job already, and that job was not to be ever fired at Russia even, but to create a window of opportunity in Putin's stance through which the world could finally see a hope for a ceasefire. However, what is seen now is that it is a long way to go. What happened is Putin won himself more time, another respite, another week, 2 weeks, another 50 days. That is his tactics, as we know. Immediately after things start to turn southward for him, Putin just leans back westward and stages another highly informative and extremely frank conversation with Donald Trump.
Every voice matters. Join our community, support independent journalism and help us bring you the truth from Ukraine. Become a member of Ukraine today. Join us now.
Putin shakes Trump's hands, rides Trump's limo, visits American Alaska, and enjoys the American army rolling a red carpet under his feet. Putin talks to Trump's envoys for hours, hypnotizing them with his homemade Russian historical lullabies. He makes Trump believe that Trump is important and influential, while knowing beforehand that Putin is gonna play him for a fool. He did that many times before and most likely will do it again in Budapest, because why not? As it turned all good for Putin last time, Putin's plan for Budapest is what it always was before. Talk, 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 then add some ambiguity so stupid Westerners can interpret that the way they want. Then talk some more, but never forget a good old Russian manner. Always lie. And keep on killing, raping and burning Ukraine while lying to the outer world. It is not Putin's fault, by the way. He just can't help himself. He's what he is, a mediocre KGB midget that simply had no other choice to become a dictator, supported by the overwhelming majority of the Russian nation, who's historically scared of democracy and freedom and will always prefer dictatorship and indoctrination. This is literally how they, both, and Putin and Russians, literally understand democracy. They don't, considering it a weakness. Due to the expansion of North Korean labor quotas, Russia could lose control over 40% of its own homeland. According to Ukrainian intelligence, Moscow pays for its assistance in the war against Ukraine, not only with oil, grain, money and technology, but also with its own land. Indeed, without support of its allies, Russia would have lost the war long ago, stated Budanov, head of the main intelligence directorate of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense. This topic will be continued by my colleague Victoria Chestyukina.
In these images, North Korean drone pilots are coordinating the fire of Russian multiple rocket launch systems targeting Ukrainian armed forces positions in Sumy region. Ukrainian military personnel recorded conversations between North Korean operators and Russian soldiers.
From the territory of Kursk region, these units conduct reconnaissance operations using unmanned aerial vehicles, locate the positions of the Ukrainian armed forces, and assist in adjusting fire on Ukrainian positions in Sumy region, from a statement by the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine on Telegram.
Due to significant personnel losses, the Russian command continues to involve North Korean military personnel in active combat operations, the General Staff of the Armed Forces of Ukraine explained. North Korean soldiers have been participating in Russia's war against Ukraine since the fall of 2024. According to South Korean intelligence, Pyongyang has sent more than 10,000 military personnel to the Federation. At least 1 in 5 of them has been killed.
Where else can Putin get ready soldiers? He could forcibly take them from Lukashenko. He has trained armies where fighters have already undergone training, have uniforms and weapons, and have been combat coordinated. Putin doesn't have such a resource within Russia. Even mercenaries from around the world, from China, Central Asia, Africa, cannot compensate for this gap.
Russia would have lost the war against Ukraine long ago if it weren't supported by its allies with resources, weapons, and manpower. The head of the main Directorate of Intelligence of the Ukrainian Ministry of Defense is convinced.
I'd like to emphasize that Russia would have lost this war long ago, and Ukraine, with the help of its partners, would have reclaimed all occupied territories if it weren't for the support of the Kremlin by its allies, primarily North Korea. I want to draw attention to the unscrupulous actions of some countries. Despite international sanctions, they allow Russia to obtain weapons, ammunition, and critical components. Moreover, they permit their citizens to join the ranks of the Russian Federation's armed forces.
The North Korean dictator stated that the DPRK will expand its nuclear arsenal to, in his words, counter the military cooperation of the United States with South Korea and Japan. Such statements rely on Moscow's partnership commitments. The creation of the new North Korean intercontinental ballistic missile Hwasong-20 likely involved Russian technologies, stated the chairman of the South Korean Joint Chiefs of Staff. The missile was first showcased on October 10th at a parade. In Pyongyang, it was called, I quote, the most powerful strategic nuclear weapons system, and claimed it could strike any target on the mainland United States.
The design of the transporter erector launcher for the Hwasong-20 appeared to be different compared with the previous Hwasong-19, first fired in October last year, raising speculation the North may have received support from Russia in developing the new long-range missile amid their deepening military alignment, from a publication by Yonhap.
Russia compensates its allies not only with money, resources, and technologies, but also with its own territories. China and North Korea are gradually economically capturing Russia's eastern regions. According to Ukraine's Foreign Intelligence Service, China is increasing its financial influence. Beijing's investments in the Far Eastern Federal District will reach a record 1 trillion rubles in 2025. These are trade contracts, but the PRC has no plans to invest in the infrastructure of Russia's hinterland. More than 2 million Chinese citizens already live in the territory from Vladivostok to the Urals. For low prestige and heavy labor, Moscow actively recruits North Korean citizens. Over the past year, more than 15,000 workers from the DPRK arrived in the Far East, according to official data, and about 50,000 according to unofficial estimates. Russian companies have already submitted requests for 153,000 North Korean workers, reported by Victoria Chistukina, UATV News.
That's it. It was Henry Keane. Thank you so very much for standing with Ukraine. Please subscribe so as to stay tuned to what is happening in the world and in Ukraine, shown from the Ukrainian perspective to you by us UATV. Thank you. Goodbye.